Today, I'm going to be talking about the new roles in Among Us. Let's go. So the quick one we have is just the normal crewmate role. It's okay. It's not too great. I mean, crewmate, you're just a crewmate, just running around really. And you're doing your tasks, trying not to get killed, and you're just hoping someone will be that guardian angel that protects your life. And yeah, so the crewmate role is relatively simple really. It's just do your tasks and do your tasks to win. What I will say is it's not too bad of, a role. It's just a crewmate role, isn't it? And what I will say is when it comes to trying to get different roles, that crewmate one could get in the way sometimes because, the roles are really difficult to get. But except from that, crewmate role, pretty simplistic role, and you can't really be mad at that. Little shapeshift role there. Myself killed myself. Another classic one is the imposter role. This isn't the shapeshifter one, this is an imposter role. So this is one of the other classics, which is imposter, where you go around killing people, sabotaging, and etc, etc. Still one of my favourite sort of roles, imposter. It's still one of my favourite to this day. It's not that really hard to mess around with. It's just going around killing people really. What I will say is when it comes to crewmates, imposter role's kind of my thing. I love going around killing crewmates. It's relatively easy. And yeah, pretty much imposter just goes around sabotaging people, either comms, you've also got, what was the other one? Crash course, you've got reactor meltdown, you've got oxygen, you've got all that stuff. And then you've got the killing, which depending on how long your kill cooldown is, you can go rapid fire killing or just normal, walking around killing. You will have to be careful of cameras though, obviously, because an imposter has to be careful not to be caught, otherwise they could get voted out. It's not like Shapeshifter, where they can disguise themselves to whoever they want and do not get caught. The imposter role. Next, we have one of the new roles, the scientist role. Okay, so I have to admit, this one is extremely interesting. I do love the fact that they do give you access to vitals every so often. By every so often, I mean you have to do tasks to regain battery to your vitals, which is really cool. It's good to have them on you when you're a scientist, as you know when a crewmate's dead, and if you've seen other colours near that crewmate, you know exactly who to blame, and it's quite useful as a role. What I will say is it's not as fun for me as imposter or shapeshifter, but for a crewmate, a good role, it's quite useful for especially people who love looking at vitals. They're going to be very excited to have had a chance to be scientist. It's very good for when you're in a meeting and you can tell and inform your crew that that's what you've seen on vitals, you've seen that person die, and you can full on just make a proper kind of argument or proper talk about it, as you now have the evidence of who's died, and if they've seen any colours nearby, which is really cool. I think the scientist role is quite OP at moments because, the imposter doesn't know who the scientist is, meaning, it's quite good because the scientist can tell who's died and who hasn't. The imposter doesn't know who the scientist is, so he can't just kill off the scientist either, which is really, really interesting. And you never know, once the imposter does kill off the scientist, there can be another scientist there, and it makes the imposter role and the shapeshifter role very difficult, which I really like because it's more difficult than some other roles. Now, what a quick one for this one, but this is Shapeshift. I love everything about the way the Shapeshift works with, shifting into different crewmates, acting like you're not suspicious, and just generally being you're disguising yourself, which I really, really like. It's something different from the imposter role entirely. with, you know, constant like shapeshifting into other people, making it look like that it was them instead of you. And in a way, it's like you could stay silent in a meeting without actually looking sus, because they'll be going on to other colours that you've been and voting them out instead, which is really, really interesting. And I love every single bit about Shapeshift, although it depends how long your counter is, for how long you shift for, and when you can shift again, which is really interesting. But it has the same sort of tactics as well as the Imposter, with sabotaging and killing, which is really interesting. Love everything about the Shapeshifter. Next, we got one of my personal favourites. I couldn't go in a public game to get this because it wasn't giving me Engineer. So, yes, it is Engineer I'm talking about. This role is pretty OP, but dangerous at the same time. For example, it is very, very, very useful to use vents to get to tasks quickly. I love that, and you can also catch the Imposter in an event, maybe. You could, I don't know, I'm not entirely sure. But it's really interesting. It really is, because if they're two engineers, you know, you get your tasks done very fast depending on what the cooldown is for your vents, and just like vent jumping between tasks, which is really interesting. It does make the game much more like enjoyable and tense for the Imposter mostly, because the Imposter has to rush around killing people, including the Shapeshifter. They have to run around killing people in time because there's engineers jumping in vents, going to different places and getting things done faster. I love that. But here comes the dangerous bit. If a crewmate sees you venting and you're an engineer, they might think you're an imposter, because they know that imposters can vent. So what is interesting about that is they could vote out the wrong person entirely, and that could make the imposter's job slightly easier, which is really, really interesting, which I really like. For example, you're jumping in a vent, and then all of a sudden, someone presses the emergency button and says, so-and-so vented in this room. People are going to think you're an imposter when you're an engineer. Although, they could be things such as people knowing that there's an engineer around and may stop the voting out of you in particular, which is really, really interesting. And I think in a way it makes your job more tense as an engineer as well, because you've got to vent in a way that don't look sus, if you know what I mean. So you got to not vent all the time, and preferably not vent on cameras, because people might freak out and say, oh, I saw so-and-so vent on cameras, and then they're going to vote you out. But it does make it a lot easier for crewmates to finish tasks when there's engineers jumping in vents and getting their tasks done, and it makes it slightly hard for the imposter because they have to rush and kill people. Winning with tasks a lot better as well, because, you know, you'd either win due to an imposter victory, or you'd lose due to the imposters winning, but you'd never really win with tasks. Last role, or last new role I'd like to talk about, is the Guardian Angel. This one is something different, because, you know, there's been people going on about, like, they don't like the fact that ghosts do absolutely nothing. They just kind of float around, do tasks, and once your task is done, you're just there floating around. Inner Sloth has changed that with the Guardian Angel role, where if you're a Guardian Angel, you can go around protecting your crewmates from an imposter. So, for example, if you were a Guardian Angel and it says protect down the right hand, depending on which way you're facing, left or right hand of your screen, you can protect a crewmate. So say if the imposter was about to kill them, it would just smash the shield instead and wouldn't actually kill the crewmate, which is really, really cool. You have something to do now as a ghost, instead of just flying around. You can protect your own crew and win that way, which is really, really interesting. I love every sort of idea of that. It's such a cool role. But there is a downside to it. What I will say is you've got to be careful with a bunch of crewmates or imposter, because if they're running around and you accidentally press it, you could protect an imposter's life. Not sure why you'd want to, because I mean, if you are voted out, you're still gonna fall into the place below. But what I will say is, you know, if you protect an imposter, that's your one protection gone, meaning you can't really protect your crew. Instead, you're protecting an imposter. So that's what I will say is one downside. But aside from that, everything else about the Angel is sick. I love it. So that has been all the imposter roles. I wanted to do it on my PC, but it wouldn't work because we're going to get a new one. So hopefully I'll be back to doing PC stuff soon. I've had to do it on my phone, so I do apologise if it's not as great. But except from that, what do you guys think of the new roles in Among Us? And what do you think of all the classic ones as well? Because I did go through all the classic ones with you guys. But what do you guys think? Do you like Shapeshifter, Engineer, Scientist, and Guardian Angel? Do you like those roles? Because I sure do. It gives more of the game like something interesting, and especially for the Ghost as well, because Ghost was kind of boring. Guardian Angel is quite a cool role, and I think my favourite role out of all of them has to be Shapeshifter, because there's way more to Shapeshifter than any of the other ones, and it's very interesting the way you can shapeshift into different crewmates. Let me know what your favourite role is down in the comment section below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Next video coming out is a little bit way, and then next week we'll be having another HDF video depending on what you guys want to see. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in another video. Goodbye!